Hi there, and thank you so much for checking out this bujo video. I apologise that this one is going out a little bit later than I intended, but it is still before November actually starts, so it's all good. I think part of the reason for that is I struggled to find inspiration this month, so I procrastinated over the design quite a bit. As you can probably tell, I have gone for a lunar moth design, but it did take me quite a while to decide on that, and there were a few things that came together to help with that decision. So last month in October, I really liked Bujo by Philo's design, where she used a moth and a moon motif for her setup. Then I treated myself to some new Coliro Pearlcolor watercolour paints. I didn't get one of those pre-made sets, as all the ones they had, there were just like 1 or 2 colours that I didn't really want in the set. So I decided to buy an empty tin and then pick all of my own colours. I didn't really have anything in mind at the time, but I thought I would probably end up using them in my bujo at some point. And then I was scrolling social media and came across a video of a lunar moth on someone's hand, and I realised that one of the colours that I had in the set would be perfect for a lunar moth on the black paper of the journal. So yeah, those 2 things kind of helped it all to come together. It did take a while, but I'm actually really pleased with how the design came out. I will also apologise now for the lighting in this video because I was using metallic paint. My camera struggled with the reflections as my studio lights are quite bright. I did take the exposure on the camera down a bit and that did help, but the way my setup is means that I can't really move my lighting and it is already on the lowest setting. And I couldn't really use natural light as I can only film in the evenings at the moment, and this time of year it gets dark really early. So yeah, I did my best to reduce the brightness in the edit, but it's still a little bit bleached out in places, and the colours aren't quite exactly what they look like in real life, but yeah, hopefully it doesn't detract from it too much. Okay, so for the moth, I lightly pre-sketched the outline, and I used some tracing paper to help get that symmetrical, so I drew one side and then traced it and then flipped it over so that I could have exactly the same on the other side. And the colour that I used for the wings is called Seafoam. I really love it, it's so pretty, and like I said, it kind of is a little bit lighter through the camera than it is maybe in real life. So you can kind of see that I made all the brush strokes on each wing follow the same direction to add a bit more shaping, as I wanted to keep it quite simple. I could have done a second layer of paint to get rid of that effect, but I didn't want it to be too blocky. And lunar moths do have a translucent quality to their wings, so I think it worked really well. The moths have like a really chubby little fuzzy whitish body, so I used silver paint for the body and also the fluffy antenna. And then I used this colour which I already had in another set, and it's aptly called moon gold for the moon phases in an arch above the moth. Lunar moths also have a darkish line running along the tip of their top wings, so I used gold instead, and I also added it along the edge of the second wing to give a bit more definition where the wings overlapped. And of course not realistic at all, but definitely pretty. I added a little leaf motif along the top wings, and I didn't feel like I could leave the bottom ones undecorated, but I also didn't want it to be too complex or busy, so I added a little crescent moon and a star. Underneath the moth, I wanted to do leafy branches, and I did them on a slight curve, keeping them fairly symmetrical, both sides, to reflect the kind of arch of the moon phases above that. I really struggled to decide on what colour to use. I was reluctant to introduce another colour as I had already used 4 different ones, but they are quite subtle, and I really love how this light pink, which is called cotton candy, complements this sort of slightly bluish green tones of the moth colour. I finished off that page by just adding a title at the top with a white Jelly Roll pen. I used the size 10 nib because it's nice and thick and bold and showed up quite well. And that's the front cover all done, and I love how it turned out. I think it's super pretty. Okay, so my calendar is my next setup, and I went for my usual favoured quite big grid. The boxes are 4x5 with like an extra box along the top to write the date of the month in. And I used quite a large area on there, but I left some space to the side for an additional setup. I carried on using the white Jelly Roll pen to do the title on this page. Because there's quite a lot of space, I did it quite large size font, but I also went back over it a couple of times. So even though the nib was the biggest one I've got, the size 10, I still wanted it to be a bit thicker. So I went over it a couple of times just to make it really bold. In the space to the left of the page, I just made that a little area to put my memories in. And that is just a simple outline with the title at the top. Then after all those grids were drawn, I decorated the page. At the top left, I did another lunar moth. To the bottom on the right, I've got some other bits and pieces that I wanted to collage with because I didn't want it to be just metallic paint. Kind of wanted to add a little bit more interest in there as well. So of course you've got to add some trusty book pages. But I also had this set of kind of celestial, astrological kind of stuff. And I just thought it fit kind of well with the lunar aspect of everything and the moony kind of stuff. So yeah, I just added those in here and there, and I don't know, just maybe lifted the design a little. The next page in my setup is my habits and trackers, and I'm going back to the same setup that I did in my September one. I kind of did something slightly different in October because I did lots of Dutch doors, so I had limited space on each of the pages, so I kind of altered from my norm, but I'm going back to my favourite setup for this. My plant watering tracker is the one at the top, and I just put all of my plants down on the list and then the dates along the top, and then I will just tick off when I water each plant, just so that I can make sure I am not watering them too often. Usually I think that's my downfall, is I think I water them too much, not too little. So it just keeps me on track and makes sure that I don't water them too frequently. The bottom grid is for all my habits, and in September I did a little experiment just altering it slightly so that I could group the habits together by how frequently I wanted to actually do them every week. So I've got a section of 4 altogether that I want to try and do every day, and then a section just below that I want to do 3 or more times a week, and then the section of 2 at the bottom that I want to do 2 or more times a week. I think it kind of makes things a bit clearer in my head, because before, when I just sort of did them in any old order, they were a bit jumbled up, and this way it's kind of easier for me to see whether I am hitting that goal of how many times I'm doing that habit in the week. And you might also be able to see that I've done thinner lines along the whole rest of the table just to mark out where the end of each week is. So between Sunday and Monday, I've done a line just so that I can track the week and see how many I've been doing per week, if that makes sense. And in September, I really loved it. I had to change it up, like I said, in October, but yeah, I really wanted to go back to this one because it worked really well for me. So after the table was done, I just added my title along the top, again with another jelly roll. I know a lot of people use dip pens with the Coliro Pearlcolor paints, and I've actually never tried that. So I feel like I should probably get one day and give that a go and see if I can do some calligraphy in my journal with the metallic paint. But yeah, I don't rate my chances of doing it neatly with a paintbrush, unfortunately. Along the bottom of the page, I have done another row of moon phases. And this is again using the moon gold colour, and just to add a little bit more depth to them, after I've painted the block colour on, I then go over with just a damp brush with no paint on it and just lift off a little bit in places, so then it kind of gives the mottled effect of the surface of the moon. For the rest of the page, I added some more ephemera along the sides and painted a few more leafy branches down either side of the moons. I love painting simple leaf branches like this. It's so relaxing just to build the shapes using single brush strokes. You don't have to concentrate too hard. It's just very chill, and then you usually end up with something really pretty. For my next page, I'm starting off with the decoration, and this page is going to be very symmetrical. I really love that look. I think because the moth itself is symmetrical with the wings on either side, I think doing the decoration symmetrical too is really cool. So I've done the moth over the gap in the page, and I'm being careful not to paint the seam because sometimes that can then leak through to other pages if you're not careful. And this is just exactly the same as the one on the front cover, it's just a slightly smaller version. Either side of the moth, I'm doing a little simple branch with some leaves and a tiny little crescent moon. And then under the leaf section, that just gives me some space to put the title for that page. On the left side, that is my gratitude log. So I've just done the dates all down the left side of the page, and I'll just sort of do a one line a day situation where I just write down something that I'm grateful for. And then on the other side, that's just my tasks on my to-do list. That one's much more freeform. I'll just write what I need in whatever space I need. And yeah, that is another setup done. The next page, I have made a quote page. I felt like the design this month was really aesthetically pleasing to me, and I do like hand lettering as well and stuff, so I just thought I would add a quote page in there. I did struggle to find a quote that I liked that was I kind of wanted it to be moonish related. And I thought this one was actually quite cool. It's, you don't have to be whole in order to shine, and the moon is very often not whole, and it is always very beautiful. In fact, I love a crescent moon probably more than a full moon. So yeah, I really liked that quote. I just want to say a really big thank you to everyone who watches my videos and leaves likes and comments. I had so many really lovely comments on my October video, and it reached a wider audience than I was expecting, which is always really nice. So I just want to say thank you, and that I am really, really grateful, and I feel very blessed that I'm able to create this and put it out into the world and that people enjoy it. So thank you. Then it was on to my weekly spreads, and I have to say I absolutely loved the setup that I did for October. I felt like the boxes were a really good size for me, and I really liked the layout. I could make each month look a little bit different just by placing things in slightly different areas, and I really liked that, and I felt like it worked really well for me last month, so I did pretty much exactly the same thing this month. And yeah, I really love how these ones turned out. On the final page, there was a bit more space left, so I just added in another moth there, and then also some bits and pieces of ephemera around that. And that is it for the November setup. Despite this one feeling like quite a hard one to get out inspiration-wise, I am really, really pleased with how it came out. I love the moon, I love moths, I love metallic paint, everything is good. I really am pleased with it. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed the design too, and I hope that maybe this has given you a bit of inspiration. If you did enjoy the video, I would love it if you could give it a like and leave a comment, and consider subscribing to my channel if you want to see more arts and crafts and bullet journals. Thanks so much again, bye!